Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this edition of The Young and the Rowdies. And it's a special edition. It is 2/22/22 on a Tuesday. Club going up on a Tuesday. It's your boy, Patric Young, getting to do another episode of The Young and the Rowdies, where I bring you everything that is Florida Gator basketball. And the Gators are coming off a big win against Auburn basketball in Exact Tech. I'm still going to call it the O-Dome, but for this new generation, they're not going to know it as the O-Dome. They're going to know it as Exact Tech, where the first time in school history, the Florida Gators beat a number 2 ranked team in the O-Dome, which was pretty cool for the program and for Coach White, especially with the team being on the bubble. But we're going to dive into a bunch of fun stuff this episode. I want to introduce our guest. But before doing that, again, let's remember to thank the Field of 68 Media Network for the opportunity to share this content with you guys. Please check them out. Rob Douster and Jeff Goodman, along with many other former collegiate athletes representing their alumni programs. But here I am bringing you Florida Gator and other things around. But without further ado, I want to introduce a formerly correspondent to Florida Athletics, and now has been promoted as the main beat reporter for Florida Athletics. Graham Hall, how's it going, my man? Thank you for being on the show.
Pat, I'm honored, honestly, to join the show with you. I grew up as a fan of you. I watched you in college. I know you probably get that a lot. I'm sure you're getting more used to it now. But, yeah, I mean, to be here talking basketball with you, I mean, your wealth of knowledge, Florida fans are really lucky that you do this constantly and help talk about the game in a way that I think that a lot of people out there aren't seeing it. And, this is a complex game ultimately. And to be able to break it down with someone like yourself, I'm honored.
Yeah, man, that means a whole lot. Gosh, it's so strange just because it's like I'm on Twitter every now and then, and I'm on and I see someone, I think Gareth Gutierrez, he posted the video of when I dove at Tennessee to get the loose ball, and it's like 8 years ago this play happened, and I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like it's gone by that fast. I can remember it like it was yesterday. And just those times of being a Florida Gator, man, it's almost as though, I think I did do a pretty good job of living in the moment when I was there playing, but also I think I could have done a better job of it as well, because it was a dream. It was a dream come true to play for a winning program, for the school, the university that my grandparents were huge diehard fans of and still are. They instilled that into me, and then for me to be able to go and play basketball there, and not only just play, but to win a lot, to beat Kentucky, to go undefeated in the SEC, to go to a Final Four, and now outside looking in, being able to still stay close to the program and now working for the SEC network and being it's awesome, man. So, and I'm sure for you, it's pretty cool coming full circle from being a student to being covering the team in this dynamic as well.
I got to be honest, Pat. If I probably racked my mind, I'm sure that I said some crazy fan stuff 10 years ago about the game that I didn't understand. At nearly the level that I do now. Even I still have so much more to learn, obviously, but I was one of those crazy fans 10 years ago. I had the pleasure of growing up here in Gainesville as well. I went to middle school, high school, you name it, and then blessed to go to UF afterwards. So I saw the 06 runs, the 07, 08 years, and then your time there, 2013, 14, just the incredible heights. And, I know that there's been lows, but what do you think when you look around at how many changes have happened in the game? I mean,
oh man,
I'm not to put you on the spot here. But
no, you're good.
Those first couple of years, the transfer portal would have been hard, I'm sure, to stay away from, and name, image, and likeness. I mean, I'm sure you would have got the GNC contract right off the bat. I mean, there's just so many outside temptations that I'm sure it's hard.
I'm sure Will Greer would have got that one too.
Oh man, for a couple of months before they blew up his spot. But honestly, there's so many outside temptations. And I mean, was it easier, do you feel like, to lock in on the development process in those first few years compared to today? I mean, I know you're outside looking in right now, but Gotta imagine everything they're dealing with is making things difficult in a sense. And then you add in
Yeah,
COVID
man.
and the pandemic and getting tested and
Well,
vaccinations. I mean,
oh, dude. Yeah. Like it is a world. It's a different world. It's a different world, not only from the game itself, but to everything outside that comes along with it. You know, what the NCAA held on to for so long, and you get it. I get it. It's for the love of the game, for the education. But because they were so resistant to ever accepting that that change was going to happen, and fighting against tooth and nail to prevent it, the bridge when NIL became legal and on July 1st of 2021, it was like, oh snap, we had no contingency plan for how to proceed. So now it's just like anyone and everyone, and it's unregulated. There's no union, there's no it's different state law from every, so like there's no university that's doing it, and their approach is all the same way with it. It's for this first year, because I work for a company right now. I work for a NFT company outside of doing the SEC stuff, and I get a chance to work closely and contact and speak with these universities quite often. Their athletic departments, their administrators, their compliance, their NIL committees that they now have, and it's overwhelming right now. So some universities are taking a wait and see approach. Some are putting their toe in the water. Some are trying to be trailblazers. And I can't say one way is better than the other right now, but the fact that one school can use it as an advantage because state law allows them to, versus another university that maybe wants to but can't, and then oh man, don't even get me started with licensing. Licensing licensing on itself is a headache, but the biggest headache of for this, and this goes two ways with in regards to the student athletes, is that first off, they're your kids, your student athletes. Like, you don't, when I was in those shoes, when I was a student athlete, when I was at UF, I didn't want to read contracts. I didn't have any financial literacy. I wasn't great at time management. I wasn't super organized. I didn't know what I didn't know. I had no idea what to trust. I didn't know the questions to ask. And then from business's standpoint, that are trying to make these things happen, and for athletic advisors. And I'll tell you this story real quick, and this goes in relation to the University of Florida. There was a business that came to speak to the football team, or something along that. Some of the details might not be extremely accurate, but the summary of the story will hit home. This company said, "Hey, 100 football players on the roster. All you have to do to earn this $700 is to download this app and create an account. That's literally all you have to do. That's literally taking a horse to water. Here, thirsty horse. If you want to drink, here's some water that I brought you to." After that meeting, guess how many of the 100 of the football players actually signed up? Do you have a guess?
I would say 60 or more.
Half of that.
Yeah, man.
30 of so that what makes it so difficult, because it's like for businesses that want to, and boosters that want to help, and then there's the other side, the student athletes aren't really really taking the initiative, and then it's just so complicated right now. That's why I don't know if there's ever going to be. I just hope there can be some regulation, because it can be a distraction. It will be a distraction. And there's instances like, you look at Clemson. I'll use Clemson, for example, again, or even Oklahoma. Star quarterbacks get these huge deals coming into the season, and they flopped. They didn't end up having great years. So it's like, did it really benefit the business in that standpoint? It's just right now, it definitely can be a distraction. And I try to tell kids when I get the chance, hey, do what you need to do to make sure you play this game or whatever for a long time, because those opportunities, they're not going to go anywhere. Yes, manage your time if there's something quick and easy that you can do, but if it's taking you away from what you need to do, on the court to get better, to like, if it's taken away from you watching some film, from getting some extra sleep, recovery, whatever, if it can create if you put yourself in a situation where you have to do a number of posts during a certain time period, yet you're playing terribly at that same time period, it just looks terrible. It looks bad. It just makes your brand looks bad, that, oh, you're more focused on this deal than working on your game and being also like, but there's not really anyone to kind of teach and educate on those things. So hopefully things will balance out and get kind of level for the student athletes here soon. But yeah, and I was going to say, from a rule standpoint to basketball, one thing that I just look at, and I'm not sure if fans were able to watch the College Game Day that just recently came up this past weekend. It was Jay Billis, Alfonso Ellis, I can't remember everybody's name, but the usual game day staff. They were at the Arizona, Oregon, I think, or it was Michigan State. I can't remember, but that's besides the point. They were talking about fouls and how the game has been officiated in recent years. When my junior year was when they implemented that like freedom of play, like you couldn't touch a guy. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even about, because I remember Coach Donovan, he brought, when they changed, I think they changed these rules. It had to be the beginning of the season. It had to. He brought some officials in to practice so we could like start getting kind of used to how fouls are going to be called. And got the ball on the block. He was going to drive by me, and I reached out and touched him. He didn't fall off. He didn't lose his dribble. He didn't get bumped. He still had his path, but it was a foul. And I was just like, what? That's the way that fouls are going to be called now? Like, literally, he beats me, and I literally can't touch him. And I get it. If I made him lose the ball, if I would have pushed him over or something like, but I'm like, dang, this is supposed to be a physical game. And then I leave college, fouls were getting called at an egregious level by 2015. And the officiating, they changed the rules. And this is what Jay Billis was talking about, that now officials, they're doing their jobs, but they're not doing it according to the rule book. They're not called. So like fouls aren't getting called as much as they need to be. So I don't know how well maybe I would do better with that, because maybe I wouldn't have gotten in foul trouble. But
exactly. I saw Dan Warner a couple weeks ago, and my first thought was a guy that could space the floor and can just not get those ticky-tack fouls is going to kill it in today's game. But you kind of just touched on what goes on behind the scenes every single year here in college basketball. They look back, the referee officiating committee, they try and figure out how they can get the game to be a more appealing product, but also set players up for the next level. And so the change in physicality absolutely was one. They realized that the game was getting so slow, the pace of play was horrible. We got to let guys play. This year, do you know what they're doing more and more and more that we've never seen before? They're letting guys get away with quote unquote Euro steps, which is a travel. I mean, I have never seen more travels in the game right now than I ever have. And it's because they're letting guys get away with shuffling their feet, taking an extra step, because they're supposed to be giving the benefit of the doubt if a guy is taking an extra step, because at the next level, you want to have a product that's more appealing.
Wow.
And so referees have gone into this year currently cognizant of the fact that they're going to have to let guys get away with 2-3 steps that they normally would have been quick to blow the whistle on. And so you get a guy who can moderately dribble the ball up the floor. I'm not trying to criticize a Jabari Smith type, but it's going to be more conducive to him want to dribble in the open floor because of the way the game is called. If he gets doubled, he has a chance to pivot out of that, when before they're putting the whistle in their mouths the minute they see the double team coming over.
Man.
So right now you're seeing less and less travel calls, I think, ever in the game. And you have to go back and look at that, but the refs are trying to make a more appealing product. So it's one of the things you're seeing right now.
I get it, to the standpoint of what you just said. Like, the college game should emulate what these players are going to experience on the next level. Whether it's G League, whether it is in the NBA, but like overseas, like that whistle gets blown. You do not get away with traveling often, especially big guys. If it even looks like there's something. It might not be, but if it even looks like it's not fluid or something, especially a big guy, they get you every time.
That's unfair.
It's completely unfair. But for a guy like Jabari Smith, he really does play within himself. Are there some shots sometimes he takes where you're like, okay, that's a really tough shot, but he's a tough shot maker, but he's not, he's getting these Kevin Durant comparisons. He's not a dribble down guy.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, he'll get the rebound, he'll push it, he'll pull up at the three and but as far as like getting it out on the wing and just crossing guy up, doing like it and dry, like you don't see him do that often. But I think he can develop into being that player. He's on a hot streak these last few games. He was the reason Auburn stayed in that game, because their guard play has been struggling lately. Wendell Green has not been playing great. Katie Johnson, he's been solid. Alan Flanagan, this just hasn't been his year. But you don't want to ever take away the thought of him. They didn't need him. I can't say they don't need him at all, but in the standpoint where he was last year without the Jabari Smith and whatnot, they haven't needed him to that capacity. He's been like a completely turned into a role player.
Yeah.
And I hate that for him. I love it for the program, but I hate that for him individually, because he decided to come back. He decided to come back when he could have left. And I'm pretty sure he's not projected to get drafted where he was at the beginning of the season. But shoot, the first thing I have a buddy that he's always texts me when the Gators play, and he's like, wow, what a win. The first thing I text him was like, damn it, Texas A&M.
Because I asked Mike White after the game, you get on social media, you see some of these fans, and they were livid after the Texas A&M game.
Yeah.
Final possession, 1-point loss on the road to a team that hadn't won in a month. But then 4 days later, you come home, and then that just happened to Auburn, losing at the final buzzer, one possession in the SEC. I mean, that kind of just speaks a lot of credence to how much parity is within the league in my mind. But also, you can't expect to go 18-0 in the SEC anymore. I not to say that it can't be done, but it's going to become tougher and tougher to do, because you just mentioned Katie Johnson. I love that story. I mean, can you imagine leaving another SEC team and going to another team in the SEC, and then on the way out the door, your coach says he sucks, get lost? That's what Tom Crean did to Katie Johnson. He says he has an attitude problem, isn't going to make it here in the SEC. That's just so short-sighted, knowing that you also are going to have to recruit in the transfer portal, bring guys back in. And now he's in the starting backcourt of a team that has a chance to win the national championship. The fact
I didn't realize Coach Crean left him with that explains a lot. When you go back and look at that Georgia game, why Katie Johnson, like he can do it. He'll drive in and he can finish through contact, being undersized, but he was like forcing so much in that Georgia game, and I can understand completely now why he was. I thought it was just like that I'm going to some other team, I want to show, like, it's like no, I want to show you Tom Crean.
Yeah, I mean, Crean disrespected the man out the door.
Dang,
and
man.
You're already right now seeing the game, and I think you can definitely speak to this too, where coaches are becoming more against recruiting some of these smaller guards, where you're just seeing smaller guards kind of get pushed to the mid-majors and kind of be like, okay, if you can really play this level, go prove it there, and then I'll talk to you in a year in the transfer portal. I love seeing guys like Tyree Appleby, Katie Johnson, who know that they're a foot shorter than all these other guys and have no problem dribbling the lane and yelling in a guy's face when they draw contact, because that's kind of a dying breed right now. And when you talk about an emotional sport like this, so many of those guys can be heartbeats of the team, that the rest of the team just channels their energy, that, what they make up for, what they give up in stature, they make up for in personality. And so I love seeing guys like him and Tyree.
It's amazing that you would think that these undersized, like the first thing you would think in your mind is like point guard for these undersized guards, but oftentimes they're not. The smaller guys, they are offensive mindset guys. Score, getting my shot off quickness. Katie Johnson, Zakai Ziegler over at Tennessee, Tyree Appleby, Chris Likes, Deshaun Ruffin. those guys are. And then Chris Likes had an awesome block a few weeks ago on a bigger guy. I think he actually pinned it on the backboard. But for these smaller guards, it's just that, you have to have a chip on your shoulder. You kind of have to. I think out of all those guys that we named, Zakai Ziegler, he's probably been my favorite to watch in the SEC. He brings just a level of toughness, especially defensively. That he's shooting the ball well from three right now. He's shooting almost 50%. In like the last 4 or 5 games, he's almost shooting like 50% from three, like 13. It's all off the bench in like 18 minutes. Like he's playing out of his mind. But the level of toughness, like he had a game where he was like 0 for 8 from the field and just understood like, hey, I'm not scoring today. How else can I help this team win? And he ended up getting a big stop, which helped them to win that game. I look at Tyree Appleby and I look at that Philanders Fleming at times as well. And I'm like, in the last, I'm watching the game against Auburn and I'm like, I do not trust. And I love the kid. I love Philan. I think he's a tough, I'm like, I don't want the ball on your hand at the end of the game. I don't. I think you bring a great dynamic, but your decision-making in that time, Tyree Appleby, he has shown that he has that big shot make ability. He just gets a little loose with it sometimes when he's dribbling into the paint. I'm not sure if the Gators' assist to turnover ratio is back to 1, but the majority of the beginning of the season it was less than 1. And Tyree was a big part of that as far as turning the ball over. But I think for the Gators, that Texas A&M game, you can't be surprised that the Gators fouled a jump shooter though, because they've been doing it all year. They've been doing it all year. So it's.
I mean, how many times did you hear a play off at 2 feet? I mean, just leaving your feet. I mean, I was surprised that Walker Kessler left his feet as much as he did on Saturday with the head fakes that Colin and. I mean, you would think the guys by now would be more terrified. You want to talk about not hurting your team? I mean, It's worse in my mind to leave your feet on defense than to miss a shot at the other end, take a C shot, because you are not only risking foul trouble, but I mean, a guy gets in their head that they can take you off the dribble and get you in the air. I mean, they're going to have their way with you all night. Once
they get you that first time too, then if there's a guard like Scotty Pippen Jr., that's offensive mindset, knowing how to create a shot, create space, get you up. They're just toying with you at that point. Or even like a JD Note as well, because those guys understand just the dynamics of creating contact, of really having good passable play fakes. But yeah, to your point, and that's why, if you go back and look at my stats, I think my freshman year maybe it was my sophomore year that I had the most blocks in a season in my career. I just got the mindset, I need to be on the court. Like I do want to block shots, but I can giving up 2 points or 4 or whatever it may mean, and me staying on the court and helping, that's way more important, because I played such great pick and roll defense. Like Coach Donovan never had another center like me after Vernon Macklin left. It was Eric Murphy, pick and pop guy. We had DeMontre Harris that came in, but he just didn't get it. It just didn't click with him. Oh man, if he could have gotten it, man. If 2 things, if he could have figured it out and gotten in shape and remembered plays and all these things, because he was like defensive player of the year, I think his sophomore year or junior year, one of the years. If we had Dorian Finney-Smith, how he played his last year, if we would have had that my last year, oh my gosh, we would have run away with the entire season. We would have been undefeated. We would have been undefeated that whole year.
I mean, I'm sure you've talked about this a lot before, but seeing what Dorian Finney-Smith, how far he has come, and not to expose you or anything like that, man. I know you had your difficulties in the weight room. I know a lot of people assume that you were just this Greek god from the time you got here, but lifting, days off, practice, I mean, that stuff is not easy. And Dorian Finney-Smith, he had a lot of difficulty I heard a lot that he was lazy, and I hate even using that word because that is just so offensive, but that's something he had to grow out of. The structure you were talking about, the schedule, just how far he has come in terms of playing within himself too. I think that's such a great term.
The better word is just he wasn't fully committed.
Sure.
You know, he wasn't fully committed to every part of the process and understanding, like, you know, and you know, certain guys get it young. Like Bradley Beal, he understood it. Mm-hmm. And he, like, from day one, he understood what it meant to be a professional, of like from film to the extra shots to every part of the process of making you get better and having great performance. And, you know, fortunately for Dodo, you know, he had Coach Donovan and Billy Donovan, Coach Donovan and Coach White, both of these guys, to really like push him and help him to get it, because, you know, and that's the thing about great coaches, like they won't let you settle. They won't let you relax. They won't let you give up on what they see the potential in who you can be in helping the team and wherever you want to go. And it's just like, you know, my dad would always say, or I can't remember who would always say this, probably my dad, you really want to worry when a coach stops coaching you, because that's when they've kind of given up. They see like you're not going to get it. And to Coach White's credit, to Coach Donovan, they never gave up on Dodo. And look at him now, it's by no surprise. And I'm sure when he had Coach Carlisle, when he got to the Mavs, I'm sure he pushed him as well. His ability to shoot the ball, like Dodo's ability to shoot the ball, really helps him so much. Even with that funky shot he's got, where it sits on the side of his head, hey, it goes in. So I couldn't be more proud of Dorian Finney-Smith, with what he's accomplished with his career. And he's playing with Luka. I can't wait to hopefully get him on the podcast one day and talk to him about how it's been from day one working, you know, playing with Luka, Dwight Powell. He was with Dirk as well. All these great guys he's had a chance.
Yeah,
Kristaps, coach. Yes, it's incredible. It's truly incredible.
What do you think? You kind of brought on what I was going to talk about. I mean, we've seen guys who are right there, but could get here in an off season, and they go in and change their shooting form and try and add 15 pounds to their frame at the same time and work on dribbling in between their legs in the open court. I mean, all these things to diversify skill set. And then they get to college, and then all of a sudden they're not shooting as well from the field, or struggling with their basic mechanics on a free throw shot. You know, what do you see as the pros and cons of altering mechanics in the off season? And just from your experience, how difficult can that be to get back to like a natural shooting form when you are cognitively thinking about doing something different with your shot? Does that make sense?
Well, the person to look to, the first person that comes to mind is Casey Prather. Mm-hmm. He used to shoot the ball. He used to shoot from left to right. He used to bring it. He used to shoot it across his body for the longest. And he literally took the entire, like, after the season was over, junior year, we lose to Michigan in the Elite Eight. He took that entire summer and worked on his form. Like, he was obsessed. He was obsessed and committed with the process. He's like, because for the longest, he was just trying to be somebody who he wasn't, and like be this 3-point shooter. And he got stuck into this way of thinking, like, I'm going to show Coach Donovan that he's wrong about what I can be and who I should and how I can. And like, that's never going to work. Never in the history of basketball is like trying to go against your head coach when he's trying to help you be the best. Like, is that going to work? Because he's the one that puts you in the game, kind of thing, takes you out. So Casey was completely committed to his body, to the process, to the work. And then we see what he ended up doing his senior year. I just think that for some guys, it can get so mental. Like, there's the 10,000 hour, like some people have like disputed that, but I think there's of the 10,000 hour rule, you commit to something for a long time and start to believe it, like something's going to change. Something's going to start happening. It's not that it's going to be a overnight thing or always going to turn into results right away. But to think like something in you's not going to shift and get better, just the commitment, and in doing that, like because sometimes it's like, dang, do I trust the work that I did? Did I work hard enough? Why am I not? Because like for me, I think coming into that last year, I worked a lot on expanding my game and doing other parts of it. And it just was, maybe I should have like communicated better with Coach Donovan, because I was like, man, I know I can do this well, but like if I can add this 10 to 15 foot jump shot to my game, it'll make me being in the paint even more. That was my mindset. Like if I can knock this shot down every now and then, it'll open up more dynamics. But it was like, because I was so focused on me, it took away from team, and it ended up hurting the team more than helping. So that's where it can get kind of like, it is what you want to do and focus on, is it actually helping the team, or is it going to turn away, and is it going to hurt the team? So it's definitely a double-edged sword. And I'm glad that, you know, being in a position where I could receive criticism and understanding like, hey, no one wants you to be less than. We want you to be the best. So you don't want to lose sight of your strengths. I think that's oftentimes what can happen to guys, that they lose. And that's what I told Colin. I was like, hey man, like, yes, definitely do those things, work on that, but you are so dominant here. Like, don't lose sight of that. And he's been awesome this year.
Isn't part of that because we've got this, you know, really plugged in society, and, you know, with the internet, everyone says, oh, look, he's 6'11", 245, you know, he can space the floor. Why can't he? So you're constantly being compared to people who have similar body types as yourself. And when you feel like another guy who looks the same and is the same height as you is able to do something, it can be pretty hard not to be like, well, you know, should I be working on my baseline jumper? Should I be able to space the floor, take guys off the dribble? I mean, how tough is it to avoid comparing yourself to other people out there, especially knowing that, you know, skill sets are something that ultimately you're all going to be compared against when you get to that next level, in a sense.
Oh man, you said that so well. I mean, comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison truly is. And yeah, for me, I dealt with that. I would look at guys like Cody Zeller or Anthony Davis, or you know, I'm trying to remember who back at that time. There were just other bigs. Kaminsky, Frank. I would look at Frank Kaminsky. I would look at, I'm like, dang man, like I know I could, because Cody Zeller, he would get the most breakout dunks in games I had ever seen a big guy get. And I'm like, this kid isn't faster than me. I know I can run fast. Like, why am I not getting the opportunities like that? Or why am I not getting like, I know I can shoot. I know I can do these things. But it'll put you in a place to like not think of the big picture. Like, hey, we're the #1 team in the country. What am I complaining about? Like, before we move on, let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with Bet Rivers yet, now is the time, because they are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just one play through to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Pay Instant Approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With basketball season tipping off, get in on the action by going to betrivers.com today, or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Yeah. Like we're holding teams to 40 points because I am the anchor of this defense. And yes, those stats, like I am beloved by this incredible fan base, but comparison is the thief of joy. It blinds you from being grateful for where you are and what you have. And, and understanding like those guys are dealing with their own stuff. Focus on you, focus on like being a good teammate, a great teammate. And but yeah, that stuff can be poison. It certainly can be poison and affect you from, again, staying in a place that's going to help your team. And I wonder, when you come and think about the transfer portal, I wonder how much of comparison and again, it's another thing where I try to look at it with perspective of seeing all the pieces of why somebody would want to transfer. Just homesick, new coach, you're not playing, You're not winning. You have a grad year. I'm trying to think of all the things, but realistically, comparison could be a thing in there. And if filled with comparison in your heart of like, I need to be in this league because this league sucks, or whatever it may be. And it's like, dang, so you're not really coming to the program to win, to actually be a contributing person to this team. Is it because you want to take more shots? You want a bigger role for yourself? Because last time there's the only people that have the validation to say something like, there's no I in team, but there is a me. There's an I in win. Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. Those are the only guys that have, that can say things like that. Sure. For everybody else, last time I checked, it's a game that's full of everybody playing their role, contributing to helping the team win. Are some guys' roles better or different or more? Yes, but guess what? That person cannot win on their own. So I just worry about that aspect with the transfer portal. The hidden incentives that can come in and bleed into a team, especially if a player start to not get happy with their role. It's hard to tell. That's what makes recruiting nowadays probably the hardest it's ever been in the history of college sports.
And I think you've got I think that you have such a great perspective about this because you went through recruiting, went through the huge expectations at a place like this. And so many people want to have the mindset. I'm not trying to disagree with you here, but so many people want to have the mindset of like, oh, hey, Patrick didn't have a good year. He wants to go somewhere else where the coach is not going to be as hard on them, and oftentimes it's the coach that is looking around at the rest of Power 6 basketball and saying, hey, can I let this person come back on the roster and take up a roster spot, take up a scholarship, knowing that there's a bunch of other players, guys who average 16 and 7 at some places and can transfer and play here right away? Is it responsible of me as a head coach for competitive reasons to bring this kid back rather than say, hey, listen, I think you're more of a mid-major guy? I mean, there was a player, a lot of freshmen here in 2004 that weren't having amazing years. And say, Coach Donovan then feels like, hey, I have to improve the roster right away rather than bank on these guys making this step. Do a lot of those guys get that second year because there is this commitment between head coach and player? No, the coach also feels a lot of that pressure to say, listen, I'm going to get run out of the SEC unless I get 13 guys who can come in here and play right away. I can't bank on, if Patrick takes some steps, he could be a good reserve for us. No, I need to get guys who can play. That's what coaches are dealing with too. Wow. And often players are getting the brunt of the blame, though, being like, well, it's got to be because they're selfish. They want to leave. And oftentimes these coaches are like, man, I could lose my job unless I say, hey, get lost. I got to get someone new.
Dang, I never even thought about it that way, but that's so true. And that's something like fans don't understand. And like I'll tell oftentimes, like, hey, the character of Billy Donovan and Mike White, because I don't think they would never do something like, unless this player was like completely cancerous, bad character guy, could I see him, one of those guys like, hey man, like this program is not working here for you. You need to find a fresh start and go somewhere else. But I can, like, if a Coach White or whomever being on the hot seat, I don't think they would jeopardize the promises they made to those kids' families, the commitment that they've made to them and wanting to push them, and the belief that they had just to save their job. There's many coaches around the country that absolutely will do that. Are they justified in doing it? Hey, it's a business now. It's a big business now with NIL, but also these kids' futures matter. It's not like the NBA, where these guys have so much money in contracts. Like all these kids are trying to make it. You've recruited them, spoken with their families, made house visits, gone to their schools, know their coaches and whatnot. So there's definitely some moral glances and things to think about. And I had never really considered that, but this is going to change. This has changed the face of basketball, because now it's like, oh snap, I can grab that kid he wants to come here and I can win right now. Like he can help this kid can help our team win. Ooh, we got this many roster spots. I need to make space because I don't know. I just don't think I don't have the patience. I don't have enough time to allow this kid to get, because Casey Prather needed 3 years to figure it out.
Sure.
It wasn't until his senior year. Like,
and I referenced Noah and Horford. I mean, they didn't have amazing freshman years, and then they come back and win 2 championships. There may be a coach that doesn't want to take that risk with their guys to make that leap. And you mentioned
so right.
You mentioned Mike White, that you believe that he is not doing that, and I'm in that category that believes that as well, because I think we have a specific piece of evidence in Keontae Johnson. They knew that Keontae Johnson, he didn't get a medical hardship, and the odds of him playing this season were slim. They weren't impossible, but they were slim. Rather than tell him, hey, listen, you're not going to be able to stay on scholarship here. I need to bring in a 13th scholarship spot. Florida went into this season with 12 guys on scholarship and then Keontae Johnson, knowing that they would be going into every game with a season-ending injury. And if Mike really was feeling the pressure, or Scott Strickland was saying, Mike, you got to win now, you got to win 20 games, maybe he makes that decision and says, hey, listen, as tough as this is, you got to go to a mid-major. If you really want to resume your playing career, I need to go add in someone else from the transfer portal. He didn't do that, and instead Florida has played every game this season shorthanded, and they still have a chance on the bubble with an all-SEC guy to make the tournament, because he chose the promise and the moral commitment that was made between both sides. And so you can look at that specifically in my mind and say he did not take that opportunity to do so.
Man, that's and for that to be something that's just like overlooked, like that's beyond wins and losses, man. That's that's the character, the commitment to that Keontae, the kid that almost died. He died. He did die. Sure. They brought him back to life. And to his family, and Coach Key, I really hope and pray that he's going to be able to play or do whatever is best for him and his family. But for Coach, I mean, how many, even without Keontae being able to play, we can understand, like, if Keontae was playing, oh my gosh, this team would be top 5. Healthy Colin Castleton all season, healthy Jason Jatobo, and healthy Keontae Johnson being able to play at the beginning of the season. We're looking at a Florida team that's top 4 in this league. And with that being said, there was they lost to Ole Miss on the road. They should have had the game against LSU at home. Texas A&M by 1 point. Those games right there, those 3 still would put them in a much better position. And there's still a chance. Like tonight, speaking of the game tonight, on 2/22/22, Tuesday of 2/22/22. It's a big game, and it's even. It's even for in the books. What do you think Florida's going to need to do tonight to get this win? I've been able to follow Arkansas pretty well this year. What do you, from your perspective, that Florida needs to do to get this dub? And will this W put them in the tournament?
I think I've been saying the magic number in my mind is 19 in the regular season. And if you can get to 20 wins by winning one in the conference tournament, because, I mean, Pat, this, the committee stops watching Friday morning. I mean, if you won 1 or 2 games in the conference tournament, they don't care if you were the champion or not. You're getting seeded where they decided on Friday. It doesn't benefit you so much to go win the conference championship as it does to show up in the SEC tournament and win 1 game and then be sitting there at 20 with a net ranking that's 48th and 3 Quadrant 1 wins in your last month. For Florida, though, it's kind of what we talked about tonight. Mike White, and I don't mean this in terms of disrespect, and I am definitely interested in your thought on this, but he's a little bit quick to pull guys when they get that second foul, either before the end of the first half or a couple minutes into the second half, knowing that you can't risk foul trouble. And what Arkansas does so well, especially Jalen Williams, who's drawn 41 charges this season, drew 4 the other night, had 16 defensive rebounds against the Volunteers, a great full court that has, Fulkerson and Eves Pons. I mean, you look at what they've done. I mean, I think that absolutely, if Florida can avoid foul trouble, then that is going to be massive for them.
Don't forget about Euros Plavcic.
Yeah, man. I mean, they better just not, I'm surprised that he is still playing. You nailed that, man. Also, I mean, didn't he poke Chatobo in the eye? Or
oh no, that was that was Olivier Kamwa. that got him in
Oh,
the
was
eye.
it? Okay.
Yeah,
And then he was the one who threw the elbow into his back. He did one of the two. And, that's a guy who, Tennessee all season, you always hear that 5-letter D word, dirty, in reference to Tennessee. And the fact that, Florida has that injury and Jason Totobo leaves and they're booing the stoppage to review it, that kind of didn't really sit well with me. And Florida didn't really have any front court guys that they can afford losing at that sense. Anthony DeRuggi picked up 2 fouls there when Colin Castleton was hurt, and they sat him rather than try and play him through foul trouble. If you get into foul trouble against this Arkansas team, they are going to run you. They're going to finish in transition. They're great from the free throw line.
They're great from the
free throw line. Musselman is fantastic.
They lead the league in getting to the free throw line. Georgia is right behind them. Your best bet against this team for the Gators is going to be, one, limiting JD Notae, making him take tough, if you can get him in foul trouble, because they are a completely different offensive team when he is not on the court. Because he can score so well, he opens it up for them. He can knock it down from deep. He can get to the basket. He can pull up. He can assist. He's a great defender as well. He's leading the league in steals. Like when is the guy that's a 1-2 in scoring and leading with 2.5 steals per game? But yeah, to your point, Jalen Williams, he is for me, he's an all SEC guy as well. He's first team. I think he should be first team. I think Coach Muss needs to get him the ball more because when he touches the ball, good things happen. But you're going to have to be more than physical with him, but also understand, for Tyree Appleby, for Landers Fleming, that sometimes when he drives to the basket, he just puts his head down. Jalen Williams eats that up. He plays to get those charges, four charges last game. He's got to be leading this league in charges taken. I think when you look at the other guards, Stanley Umude, Audi's Tony, all these guys have the capability of becoming huge, can have a huge game, but I don't think they would kill us. I think Devo Davis, he's shooting it pretty decently from the 3-point line. It's going to be a game. I think whoever wins the rebound battle and the free throw line battle is going to be the winner of this game ultimately. It's been really nice seeing Myron Jones knocking some shots down these last few games. Brandon, I got so excited when McKissick hit a 3. He's been shooting 20%. If even
he yelled at the bench.
Huh?
He yelled right at the bench. He was so pumped to hit that 3. He's had a rough, Brandon.
He's had a rough.
You brought up Myron. You brought up Myron because fans and media, external people have a tendency to speculate when someone's not doing not doing well, and that can be. I know you can attest to this, but that can be really weighing on a player. Certainly, if they aren't. If they're on social media trying to get the NIL deals and they're seeing all that stuff too, saying, why can this guy suddenly not shoot? But you've seen time and time again, when a player is going to attempt to play through injury, you have to be private about that, because once the opposition knows about the injury, it is going to lower your effectiveness, your ceiling. And we saw this with Noah Locke when he played through a sports hernia injury a couple of years ago. And,
wow.
And a lot of fans were sitting there saying, why can he only take corner threes? Why has he lost a lot of his athleticism? Can you play this guy that's not athletic and is just kind of a 3 and average D type guy? But when you have a guy like Myron Jones, who is attempting to play through a broken finger, keeping that hidden is so critical to being able to keep using him. But you also run the risk of everyone speculating. And if you don't have a player who can block that out, that is going to lower their effectiveness more so than the opposition knowing about their injury would. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. Gosh. Yeah. I feel bad because when I found out that Myron Jones had a broken finger, I was like, oh man, he's been trying to play through that as being a shooter. That makes a lot of sense. Not only broken finger, he had COVID as well, which I don't know if you or if anyone listening has had COVID or hasn't had it. It takes a while to get your conditioning back. It takes a good amount of time to feel like you're back in shape. Some people have long COVID. I haven't heard of any athletes having it. But I remember when I had it, I was still playing basketball, and just it took me forever to ever feel like I could play 10 minutes. And it's like the season keeps going, like games, at the end of the day, it's going to be about wins and losses and the stats that you put up. But for him to come on strong, like against Missouri, knocking down 5 of 7 in the first half, only a bright spot for this team. He's had extreme, MJ, he's such a quiet guy. He's a guy that's never going to complain. It's just like when you're a figure in sports at all, I'm just like any team where there's a big fan base, you have to just be so mindful about your interactions and presence on social media, and understanding like whether the highs or lows of your performance, don't let what anyone else on the outside affect the way that you think about yourself and what you're doing. But that can be so tough, because I can imagine not shooting well and just be like, man, my finger is broken. Like,
yeah.
I'm doing the best I can. And I know he's a workhorse. He's like probably trying to make as many shots in practice to get that thing, to be as prepared for the games as he could. But man, and I think, Colin Castleton dealing with his shoulder, Anthony DeRuggi dealing with his knees bothering him, because he hasn't been playing great these last few as well. But everyone's dealing with something. There's a understanding of that in the sports world. No one's playing at 100% when you're going out there. Everyone's playing at whatever percentage, trying to give 100% of that 85, of that 90 that they got, because that's what it's going to take. It takes more, I believe, mentally than the physical, especially for this Gator team that's not as talented as you would hope the team would be.
You talked about, physical feeling from COVID. I mean, I think there's kind of a misconception that guys can get into ideal shape throughout the season. Just from your experience, you don't really, and clear me up if I'm wrong, you don't gain weight throughout the season. So say you get COVID in November, in December, and you lose 15 pounds, that's your playing weight for the rest of the season. And if you're a guy that relies on your physicality in the low post to be feeling lighter, and as if you just don't have this frame that you're used to having protecting you, it's going to absolutely affect your the way you compete mentally and your confidence level on the court. And, I think that a lot of people think, oh, he's back from COVID, he's back. And you're like, maybe not. No.
Oh man, it's really difficult when you think about just dealing with any physical element, and especially if it's going to affect your weight out there in the court. Because like, these guys are you're probably losing muscle. You're probably losing the thing that's helping you be physical on the court. And I remember it's going into my junior year, I believe, when I was in the best shape, I think, of my 4 years coming into that season. Great program Preston Green had me going through. And then I got mono. And dude, I was out for 3 weeks. So everything that I had worked for and gained and pushed towards, it was done. It was gone. Because my confidence was at an all-time high. I felt like I was in such great shape. I was super excited. And then, just getting hit with that was super difficult. So I can only imagine, for that, I'm thankful it happened at the beginning of the season versus like right in the middle, because I can only imagine trying to come back from that in the middle of the season. Just knocking you don't really gain weight, no, and you don't really, practices for these guys shouldn't be 2 hours, 2.5 hours, because it's about the result on the game. Like, you want short, hard practices that are like on scouting, getting your shots up, and then recovery. You got to recover. You got to be as fresh as you can be for each game. So gaining a lot of weight. The only guys that I know that gained weight in college would have to be the meat hook. If you had a chance to listen to him on my podcast, he is hilarious. That guy, and he was balling. He told Lon Kruger, he was like, "Hey, Lon, you recruited me fat, so I'm gonna stay fat."
I'm sure that's what guys like Jason Jatobo went through. Because like, Preston extremely well. Preston is in control of the meals. I mean, he is watching if you're trying to sneak anything in the requests. He knows everyone's metabolism and he decides what weight plan they're on. So you have a guy like Isaiah Stokes or Jason Jatobo, guys who have defensive lineman hips. I mean, they have to watch everyone after games eat way better food than them, because otherwise they have such a low, slow metabolism. They risk gaining weight middle of the season rather than losing it. And
well, that's to the point of what you and I spoke on earlier. Like, are you fully committed? Are you fully committed to, like, and being committed to winning is different for everybody. Like, everybody is going to have their battles and things they're going to need to work on and be more like vigilant on. And if weight is one of those and conditioning, you got to be vigilant. But for Jason, I don't think Isaiah Stokes was committed. I think I don't think Jason wasn't committed for a while. It was worrisome for Preston, and not like that he had to control them, but you're the environment that when they would leave and go home and be around family and friends, and no one really cares about your commitment to staying a certain weight or keeping you active and all that stuff. And then they come back in the summer, and they would leave for summer A and come back summer B, and everything that Preston had these guys working on and train, like, it was gone. But fortunately for Jason, he figured out, got recommitted to the game. Really unfortunate that he got poked in the eye and is out for the season, had to get surgery, because you could see it. You could see how much more committed and how well he was playing, diving on the floor, like getting up and down. Coach White playing him more and more minutes every game. So just really hope next season for him, that he's going to be, get his full vision back and stay committed to the game. Because he's the bright spot there for him is like, hey, you can do it. You've done it. You can do it. Believe in yourself. So really, really hopeful for him to come back full force. Yeah, no, absolutely. I got to ask you some fun ones before we wrap this up.
Let's do it. What was your favorite cheat meal to eat in Gainesville?
Oh, that's a good one. Where did I always go? Will and I would always go to Subway. We would get the double steak Philly cheesesteak, and we would always get the Subway cookies, the white chocolate macadamia nuts. But whenever I go back to Gainesville now, I would go to the place that used to be right behind the swamp. Meal Fresh, something.
Grill Fresh.
I will go, but it's closed.
I think it closed now, sadly.
It's closed. And for dinner, I'd always go to Dragonfly is my spot.
Okay, we've luckily got some better sushi restaurants in Gainesville now than overpriced Dragonfly. But man,
Dragonfly,
I mean,
it is.
You're like now at the stand. So a lot of these kids are going to end up living at the Standard. 18 to 22-year-olds, they're moving them out of Keys to live at the Standard, which is at the corner of University and 13th. Yeah, because you're not going to have the nasty 4x4s anymore. You're going to have brand new living. Billy Napier announced that their incoming class is going to live there, and I think the basketball will be pretty smart to follow.
Is that owned by the University of Florida?
It's not, no, but they're able to use like dorm stipend money apparently, which is
wow. Okay,
I know, right? That's a huge thing. But the bottom floor of that, which you could just walk to, a couple floors down, Chick-fil-A, a bento, a Cafe Miami, and then there's a Publix right across the street.
Yeah.
Chicken tender subs. I mean, macaroni and cheese whenever you want it. That's tougher than when you were playing.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
you were limited to the amount of snacks that you could eat at night. They couldn't give you snack. I think you were playing when they changed that snack rule, and you were able to eat and not go to bed
after I left.
hungry. Yeah,
they changed that. Fortunately for us, for Will, like we would. I'm trying to think how we did it. How we weren't ashamed of going to Gator dining. Will and I, like we say, like Will didn't have much money because he was from France. I didn't have, like, fortunately I had money from Bright Futures. And I didn't know about budgeting, but I just try to save my money. Like I'd have like $1,000 or $2,000 in my account for every semester, and I just tried to save it. The team was able to get us meals to the gym like once a week. Now they bring them food every day.
Every day.
They get food after like every practice. They get food.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I don't know how much money they get on their like debit card, but they get money they can go spend around restaurants and stuff. So it's a double-edged sword. And like, do the kids know enough about nutrition to make sure that they can stay in line with their goals and that they can gain weight, lose weight, stay strong, whatever it may be to help them.
What do you make of what did you listen to pregame? Who's your favorite artist to listen to, and what do you make of this current generation they love? Are you old-head in that regard?
If I would have known about podcasts, then I would have listened to a lot more Eric Thomas just to get me jacked up. But I think I listened to a bunch of Christian music back then. I wasn't a huge rap guy. And sometimes I just sit there and meditate and try to just focus and visualize what I wanted and needed to do for those games. Everyone had their own deal. Everyone had their own. We always dance. We always dance like right before right before every game.
What do you make of some of these? Did you see the video of Auburn dancing on the Florida logo before the game?
Well, you know, for them to, and I get it, they do it everywhere. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, it's just because you do it everywhere doesn't make it respectful. Right.
Yeah. And it's like the memes. Like if you lose a game, you better get ready to eat some memes too on the internet. I mean, if you jump up and down on the court, you got to get mocked after the game and said, like,
do it at your home court. And then like when you're on the road, like do it at the free throw line. Nobody will care then. It just looks terrible. It's just like dance, but like, and that's like thinking about the handshake line. Yeah, we want to mention that.
Yeah, we got to talk about that. That's
completely forgot. Yeah, Juwan Howard. I thought it was going to be 5 games, suspended for the rest of the season. You think? I mean, is that appropriate?
That's I saw $100,000 is $100,000. I mean, I don't care how much money he has, how much money he's making. I mean, that isn't set an example type fine. That is we expect more out of you. And I heard this point earlier. And Tom Izzo, I think, actually made this point. And Tom Izzo, one of those people that when he speaks, people listen. Even if you don't agree with him, you got to kind of see where he's coming from. And being a Michigan guy, seeing those fans behind, knowing what happened in November of 2004 at the Malice at the Palace.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in the state of Michigan right now, or you represent the state of Michigan at a public university, and you are doing that, knowing how that changed the game. I mean, there are more cops at every game, and they stopped selling alcohol because of the Mouse at the Palace. If you're going to be that
selling that like after
stupid,
the third quarter,
forget about that. Yeah, and that was at the end of the game, and I think the Pacers and Pistons. It was like an 18-point game at that time, and someone dunks on someone's head, and then it escalates. But the fact that the coaches got involved in the Mouse at the Palace, I think, is where people were like, okay, this is where. Of course, the players thought it was okay to fight. The coaches are fighting. So you've got Juwan Howard, who played in the league during the Malice of the Palace, and now he's out here kind of slapping an assistant coach in the head. And you think that the fix is going to be to stop the handshake line? I mean, I think that teaching 18 to 22-year-olds self-restraint is an invaluable quality, and making you go walk and shake someone's hand who just beat you by 15 points. I mean, that gives you, I think, great restraint and a control over your emotions, a great lesson.
Well, the biggest takeaway for me is to not own up to the truth. Yes, you had your guys pressing at the end of the game. Okay. Like maybe it wasn't like an organized 2-2-1, but you look, they're double teaming. They're trying to force turnovers.
And it's backups and walk-ons.
Yeah. They're trying. Your team is trying to force, and like the coach is like, I'm not going to put my players in this situation from the Wisconsin side. Like what did he have to call a timeout? But like, I'm not going to. These guys will never play. I want to give them an opportunity to. But like he's so angry. He was just so upset. Like he was getting his ass kicked.
Well, so part of this, I think, is kind of like a baseball thing for people, and I don't know all the unwritten rules of baseball, but if you're down by 15 and you as the losing team, call a timeout, I think that there's this unwritten rule here that, programs are not supposed to call timeouts there at the end, or else it's seen as like a slight. And I don't think a lot of people get that. And, Juwan Howard, I saw when they were losing by 14 to Ohio State, he called a timeout with 35 seconds left, and then he comes out of the timeout, hits a three-pointer to try and make that a little bit less worse of a game. And now you're getting mad at Wisconsin for doing the same thing when you're pressing them. I mean, that's no longer an unwritten rule in my mind. You're just kind of grasping at straws to get mad.
Yeah, like how much time was left in the game? It was less than a minute, right? It was
35 seconds.
35 seconds. So like every coach knows at some point, like, all right, like we're not going to win. Let's let them just like dribble the clock out. Like if I mean, it's not even justified when a team tries to score again. Like, what game did I just watch? The walk-on came in. I can't remember what game it was. Walk-on comes in. Maybe it was Arkansas or whomever it would have been. But, like, everyone wanted him to shoot the ball. It might have been LSU, but it's like, no, that's bad sportsmanship. We're already winning. Like, he shot the ball, like the buzzer went off, and then he shot the ball. Because, you still wanted, but like to shoot and score, like there's these unwritten rules that just are not good sportsmanship. So I think, the coach was justified in calling that timeout. And even if he wasn't justified, to ever put your hands on someone like that as the coach of a program, put the hammer on the game. It just sucks. It just sucks now because Michigan's going to be a tournament team. And he's not going to be able to coach his team in the tournament. Like, gosh, I think maybe if he could have apologized, maybe they could have given but the fact that he just kept trying to defend himself and make it seem as though he was, the other coach was at fault. That's probably why they came down on him with such a great hammer.
Florida's been up in some games, and you'll see Alex Klatsky get in the game. And the fans, the Rowdies, love it. They freak out when Alex gets in the game. And then they'll be up by 9, and a lot of fans are kind of begging for Alex to shoot a wide open three-pointer. And, I can understand why, for a fan, why that's beneficial. But if you're a head coach and you got to play against these guys next year and you're only up by, 9 with a minute to play, and you're getting your walk-ons a design three in the corner, is that really the best thing for you to be doing in terms of, winning that game? I do understand that side, and I can understand why a coach is upset about that, but you watched the Florida-Kentucky game recently, right?
Yeah.
Florida's down 18 with 30 seconds left. That didn't stop Kellen Grady from shooting a three at the very last possession and making it 21. I mean, you have to, I think, read the room in a sense. And if you're calling a timeout to run the lead up, there's a lot of coaches that are just going to take that the wrong way. A lot of times the flow of the game will make it so that you can run the lead up there. But if you're really going for the jugular and calling timeout, I still see a lot of people get really, really upset about that. And there's a lack of understanding, I think, from fan bases about why you want to maybe avoid some of those things.
It's kind of messed up.
Yeah.
It's kind of messed up. Like, I don't know. I've always just like question like if I was a coach, what would I do in a certain situation? I think big picture, the coach can just say like, hey, I can see from both standpoints. Like I'm trying to help my guys get more confidence and build their flow, and I'm not gonna. But then also I can see like, all right, let's put these guys in that don't play because this game is already won. Let me save my starters, save these guys for the next game. I think I lean more towards the side of like, and I think Coach Donovan did as well, saving my guys for next game, because I remember on my birthday, we were playing, and I was having a career night of rebounds and stuff, and I wanted to go back in. I think there was like 4 minutes left, and I wanted to go back in because I was really feeling. And Coach, he would not put me back in the game. He's like, this game is not as important as in regards to the rest of the season. And I still, being the competitor in me, I still wanted to go in and fill up the stat sheet and do something great. But Coach Donovan, every coach has their principle. Like Coach Donovan he does not like stat stuffing guys. He does not like it. He hates it. He hated guys that just came in and stuff like the game might show that you only lost by 5, but it was a blowout. in those last few minutes, the starters were still in. They kept getting to the free throw line. Guy finishes with 16, 17 points. And it's like, nah, he had 6 points up until the last when all the starters were out. Hey, yeah. I get it though.
It's definitely, it's a preference thing. And to expect that every coach is going to have the same philosophy as you, that's another one of those things where I'm just kind of like, guys, that's a misunderstanding. Maybe there's a coach that's attempting to be disrespectful, or maybe there's a coach that's trying to pull some guy with a minute left and send a message to him, that I'm going to pull you no matter what at any point in the game. If you make a mistake, whether it's the first minute or the last minute, I'm going to get you out of there. And so sometimes I can see why that is the philosophy. But when you have these unwritten rules and guys aren't seeing eye to eye, you're going to sometimes, if you don't play it cautious, you're going to offend some people. Yeah. Let's say that.
Yeah, like if the game's already, it's just much better to go. But when it comes, no one has a problem with it when it's in football games and it's Michigan and Ohio State, and Michigan finally wins and they're calling timeouts to savor the win or using all 3 of them. Like no one has a problem then, huh?
Yeah, Urban Meyer did that at Florida while Billy Donovan was across campus trying to make sure that he wasn't offending other coaches. Urban Meyer would take a timeout with a minute left. If you said something about him or you had beat him a year previously, he would take a timeout and let that rub in a little bit. And that's going to backfire on you. Absolutely. Because people are going to kick you when you're down, but
it's ugly.
It's a mentality thing.
It's just ugly. I think it's just not because at the end of the day, it's just a game. There's no need to be, in an a-hole. There's no need to do it. But so I want to ask you this. So the Gators end up getting this dub tonight. They make their final, they're in last 4 in. How far do you think this team can actually go in the tournament healthy? Colin's healthy. The guys that they have that, are they in for a first round? They're out of there, second round, round of 32. What do you think? Yeah,
I unfortunately think this team's ceiling is still the first weekend. If they end up winning one game of the tournament, I know you know Mark Wise. Everyone focuses on the postseason during the regular season, and I think that we kind of lose sight. People can lose sight of why this happens. It's the postseason is the goal in my mind for everyone. When you start making your goals Sweet 16, Elite 8, more often than not, you are going to quote unquote fail if that really is your goal. So if this team, everything we talked about, Colin's injury, Anthony, COVID, everything they've weathered, Keontae Johnson, losing, a couple guys to the NBA last year, and Trey Mann and Scotty Lewis, the way that they rebuilt with the transfer portal, if they end up making the tournament and winning one game, I know that expectations are crazy here. People love to say I'm in the keep Mike White category. I just love to say that the context is a little bit different than what a lot of fans, Florida fans especially, try and make it. They try and say that if you don't make the second weekend of the tournament, that season's a failure. And there are guys in that building, that have worked hundreds of hours a week to not be told that their season's a failure if they don't make it to the second weekend. I can understand why people take that with offense, because that is just not, we don't do it with this, pass or fail type mindset. If you make it to a certain point, Florida's able to look at the context. And I think right now, if this team wins one game in the NCAA tournament, that is amazing. 5 straight NCAA tournament appearances. That's the only SEC team to do that if Florida ends up doing that. And to say that the goals are higher, you're kind of just, 1, setting yourself up for failure, and 2, just having unrealistic expectations. Kentucky, they went 9-16 last year. To say that you better make the second weekend if you're an SEC team like that, that's just unrealistic, and it shows that you don't understand the context. But actually, for this team, I think that they have a chance of winning one game in the tournament. They have an offense that I think is successful, whether they're making shots or not, because of Colin Castleton and the low post opportunities that he can get guys, and combined with Tyree Appleby's ability to take guys off the dribble, create off the dribble, get his own shot. When he's on and Colin Castleton is playing well in the low post, Florida can compete with anybody. I've said that time and time again. But you have to get both of those things in sync, and that is more difficult than it sounds.
Got to have that. Would be great to have Anthony DeRuggi just bringing energy on both sides. He's still one of the best 3-point shooters, not as far as like volume, but he always gets good looks. When he's rebounding, defending, Kawasi Reeves has been a great bright spot for this team. You know, I think for Brandon McKissick, he's just got to be a guy right now that's taking really, really on defensive side, just helping this team so much as far as, you know, really frustrating whoever. Like if he's going to be matched up against JD Note, he's got to make JD Note's day hell. That's straight up. Like that's going to be your job without fouling. Get in there, take charges, bring energy to the team. You know, Myron Jones, you know, what Colin brings on both ends of the court, it can be extremely helpful. But we know when it comes to this tournament, you know, let's focus on today. Got a must-win game. I'm still in my mind just like, gosh, Texas A&M, like that was the easiest quad one opportunity that you're going to have. But then they go on and they beat Auburn at home, and now they have an opportunity to beat a really, really hot Arkansas team. This Arkansas team is hot, extremely hot. They should have beat Alabama. They should not have lost that game to Alabama. They had 21 offensive rebounds and only 10 second chance points. They were right there. Their defense held the explosive offense of Alabama to like 60 points. But you know, we'll see. I'm just it's just great that they have a chance.
You know, Arkansas did the same thing that Florida did. They started SEC play with 3 straight losses. And I'm sure that there were a lot of fans there who were like, oh man, we were supposed to be one of the best teams in the league. We got Eric Musselman. We re-signed him to a new contract. We got Chris Likes from Miami. I mean, you name it. They lose 3 straight in SEC play. I'm sure that they were like, oh man,
yeah,
it's not good. And now they've won 11 of
and
their
they
last
lost to
12.
Hofstra.
Yeah, they lost to Hofstra. They lost, I think they didn't lose to Gardner-Webb, but they were in a battle with Gardner-Webb there in the first half. I mean, this is a team that, and if it's not Gardner-Webb, I'm thinking of someone else, but this is a team that, you know, had new pieces, had to figure it all out. And now they're firing it on all cylinders and should have won. Yeah. Like you said, that Alabama game should have won that Alabama game. And then they wouldn't have lost since January 8th. So yeah, they are going to be a daunting challenge tonight.
If Texas A&M wins their conference tournament, I think, what is that? They probably, because they're projected to get an automatic bid. If they win, does that help Florida at all, or is it too late?
Texas Southern?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You remember watching that game?
If they win their conference tournament and get that automatic bid, does that help Florida at all?
I think Florida's already been helped by the fact that Texas Southern is not a 6-win team that everyone thought they would be. I mean, the fact that they're already playing right now, yeah, it'll help Florida in terms of, I think that it would make it a quadrant 3 loss in that situation rather than a quadrant 4 loss, which would help Florida in the net rankings slightly. But, you know, people were so quick to say, oh, this team is so bad. They lost everyone. They lost, 9 games in a row. Texas Southern's the worst loss of the season. And now we're sitting here 3 months later and they could make the tournament and have great length. I mean,
it's a hard one to forget.
Their length in front court was insane.
If it was a close, to get blown out by Texas Southern was just a hard one to swallow.
Did you know Mike Hill when you were here? Do you know who that is?
Yeah, I know Mike Hill.
So Mike Hill used to kill it with the schedule every single year. I'm sure you guys would get the schedule and be like, oh, we're playing these guys this early and this is going to be tough. But that was because you knew you would take some lumps and you wanted to have that impressive resume. Florida, heading into SEC play, it may be a little bit higher right now, but their strength of schedule was 229th out of 357. That's where the losses to Texas Southern are really going to hurt you, because you can't sit there and be like, hey, look at our net strength of schedule. We lost to these guys, but we're a top 50 strength of schedule. No, you're talking about being in the bottom third right now. And that is just so atypical of Florida, because when Mike Hill was here, now he's at Charlotte, he was so good. And not saying that who was doing it now isn't, but he was known for creating a very, very tough schedule that Florida would be grateful for in 5-6 months down the line.
Oh man, good old Mike Hill, my guy over at the AD over at UNC Charlotte now. So really good man. I got a chance to see him a few weeks ago, and
oh wow,
love that guy. But yeah, Graham, I'm gonna we got about few more hours till tip off. Hopefully we'll be smiling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully we'll be smiling that they can get it done tonight. But I guess we'll see. But really appreciate your time, and hopping on the show with me, getting to chat a whole bunch of stuff. And yeah, I mean, we'll see how this season ends up for the Gators. This was an honor. Thank you.
No, it was an honor here, man. I'm a big fan, and you've been killing it on SEC Network. So smart, so intelligent, and you really, I think, relate to the viewers. The way you talk, it's like we're in a room together, and it really, I think, helps people understand the game at a higher level because they're paying attention to who's telling it about it, teaching them. So keep killing it, man. I'm a big fan, still am, and excited to watch you kill it in this business for a long time.
Thank you, my man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, just doing my best. Still, TV is so fast. TV is so freaking fast. But ladies and gentlemen, that was another episode of The Young and the Rowdies. Make sure you check out the Razorbacks being hosted by our Florida Gators. Really important Quad 1 opportunity. Could solidify the Gators making it into the NCAA tournament. But it's been a fun season. We got a few weeks left. Can you believe it? March Madness is right around the corner. Please like and share and subscribe and do all those fun things that you do with podcasts. But I'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much.